Welcome to the Steve Bethany podcast.
It's your weekly dose of hope, encouragement, and a whole lot of fun.
All right, let's get to it.
It's episode 3.
All right, welcome in, everybody, to the Steve Bethany Hopecast, episode 3 already here.
Episode number 3.
I'm so excited, and today we have a sponsor, Pat Davis.
You just really wanted to push the button.
I really did.
We got new sound effects. Steve is pretty stoked about it.
I really am.
Excited.
We'll be introducing those as we move through. But Pat Davis, yourhealthplanman.com. We'll be telling you more about him in just a minute. But he has caught the vision, and we're so thankful that he is joining us here to help bring you the Steve Bethany Hopecast, because that's what he's all about too. He's all about bringing real hope into people's lives as well through a relationship with Christ. So it's a marriage made in heaven.
It really is. And we're so excited, honestly, for each and every one of you that have been so encouraging, sending us sweet texts and messages and reaching out through the website and subscribing, all the reviews. It's really been a blessing to us. So we're very thankful.
It really has. It could not have started better.
Yeah.
And we're so thankful, and that's all due to you telling your friends. So if you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe where you're listening to us right now. Give us a 5-star review. Or if you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
The little bell so you get notifications.
The little bell. Make sure you know whenever we upload a new video. But let's get started today with something that I think is becoming more and more prevalent, or at least it seems like it is in the information age that we're living in, and that's deconstruction of your faith, or of someone who's relatively famous as faith.
Right. Yeah, we've seen that kind of quite a few times over the past couple years. Josh Harris, he wrote I Kissed Dating Goodbye, was a pretty well-known Christian author. He announced he's atheist now, right?
Yeah, he was a pastor of a church for a long time.
So he announced that, I think it was last year. Rhett and Link, they're famous YouTubers. They kind of came out and released a whole podcast series, Deconstructing their faith. And then most recently, Josh Steinguard, he was the lead singer of the band Hawk Nelson. He posted, I think just a day or two ago, saying, I no longer believe this. I'm an atheist now, and wrote a 9-page long post about why and what led up to it.
Absolutely. And before we get into what our thoughts on that is, all of that is linked for you in our show notes.
If you want to read all of it,
if you want to read and see the videos that they all had, yes, absolutely, we want you to look at it. But it makes me sad. I think that's the first thing I feel whenever I hear somebody that has gotten some kind of level of platform for a Christian speaker or author or whatever, and they come out and say, yeah, I'm not in this anymore. That's the first thing I feel.
Yeah, same here. I think, it's disappointing. I mean, especially this one with Hawk Nelson, because, I listened to their music growing up. It was a big part of my middle school and high school years. I really enjoyed listening to them. And so it's sad because the lyrics in their songs are really solid, for the most part. And so it's sad when you see something like that, especially with somebody that has such a platform and is so well known. So yeah, I agree. I'm just sad more than anything.
I think I am too. My heart just kind of sinks because the main reason is because I feel like those people, whether they men or women, in this case they're all 3 men, but they just don't know the same God that I know. And that's what makes me kind of heart sick over it, And when you go back and you look at what they're talking about in deconstructing their faith, by the way, if you're not familiar with that term, that's people, for the most part, at least with these 3 examples, are people who grew up in a Christian bubble. More than likely. They were always in church. They always went to Sunday school. They knew all the answers, and they grew up that way in that kind of quote-unquote Christian environment where they didn't know anything else, but yet for somehow, some way, they weren't able to make the connection and really have a real relationship with God. They had all the exterior stuff, but not the inward.
And it's kind of funny because, that's honestly how I grew up. Like, I got saved when I was 4. I don't remember not going to church. My whole family is a very strong Christian family. We were just always in church. It was always a part of my life. And so growing up, I didn't have this really dramatic testimony. And I still don't. I don't. That's just kind of the reality of my life. I don't have this really dramatic turning point. But I think you don't need to have this incredible life change testimony to still know God the way that we do. And I think that sometimes the danger of growing up in the Christian bubble is that it becomes so normal where you don't really understand how transformative a relationship with Christ is, because it kind of seems like your life didn't change a whole lot. Does that make sense?
No, that makes exact sense.
Okay.
But a transformation did take place.
Right.
It took place in you, even at that young of an age.
Yeah.
I was 12 when it happened with me, but I know there is that watershed mark, that where there was a life-forming, radical change from my life. Now, I wasn't a bad kid, all that, but there still was that point where I know that deep down on the inside, I had that. And I listen to these guys talk, and I listen to them describe all the questions that they have and how they have a hard time reckoning it and coming up with solid answers that would ease their mental questions that they have about the faith. And the one thing that I kept hearing over and over, and it was probably expressed by Rhett of Rhett and Link more than anybody else was, he said, I get offended and I get upset when Christians do kind of what we just did. Said, well, you just didn't really have a real relationship with him. And I'm going to be as gentle as I can saying this, and I don't mean it to be judgmental. I certainly don't. I don't mean it to be harsh in any way. But the bottom line is, no, I don't think that they did. I don't think that they were Christian. And the reason I say that is just because of what we were talking about, that deep inside transformation. When you go back and you listen, and again, they're in the show notes. I encourage you to go and listen. I don't think that those guys ever experienced that. Because, look, I don't know all the answers, and I had the same questions that they had. Who am I? What is there really purpose in life? And what is this whole thing all about? I had all those questions as well, but I had an anchor to where, even though I still don't know the answer to a lot of them, I have that faith of knowing that there is a God that loves me, and there is a God that will take care of everything.
And I think too that it's worth mentioning, there's nothing wrong with asking questions.
Oh, absolutely not.
There's nothing wrong with feeling like, okay, I'm reading this in the Bible and it does not make sense to me. I cannot wrap my mind around it. What does this mean? There's nothing wrong with that. But I think it's important to check where your heart is at and know, like, what are your motivations for asking these questions? Are you truly trying to understand, and are you coming in with it with just an open heart and an open mind, wanting to know, okay, what does the Holy Spirit have to show me in this? What can I learn from this? How can I grow in my walk with Christ by asking these questions? But, not taking that approach, not going in from the route of, well, I just kind of want to test the waters here. I just kind of want to see, feel this out a little bit. Does what I mean?
I think that makes sense. But I think there are people, like I would say all three of these guys, they probably approached it from that heart manner of, hey, I don't understand. God, please show me. I think sometimes when we do that, we don't give God enough space to say, okay, either I've got this and this is really, in the big grand scheme of things, not as important. I'm going to give you some peace about this. Or in some way, he will reveal it to you.
Right, because everything, not everything in the Bible is just going to be crystal clear to us. I think that's where the faith comes in. There's just times where you have to just take the Bible at what it says and trust that it's true, even though in our humanness, we can't always wrap our minds around what it says.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly the point of it. And when I look back at what these guys have all three gone through, I do feel sorry for them, because especially I can just well imagine that they felt like they've built their first 20, 30 years of life on something that's not real. I can understand.
That'd be disorienting.
Absolutely it would be. But I don't know. I just feel like when you get into that kind of bubble and you start trying to live a Christian life and you don't have that transformation inside of you, all of a sudden, I can understand how hard that can be. And I could see where that can be just incredibly exhausting. Yes, I think exhausting is a good word, because one of the key things that all three, Rhett, Link, and John all said, and even Josh, all four of them said, was now that they have said, hey, I'm done with Christianity, I have found a freedom that I've never known before in my life. Now, I like to take a little issue with that. And because and again, this is my opinion, but I do think it's relevant, and I think it's applicable, because what they're feeling is not freedom, because they still have the same questions. They don't have any idea the answers of the same questions that they had. What I would like to suggest to them is they have found relief, because they have been trying so hard to live this Christian life and to read your Bible and to pray and to do the right thing,
to
be the good Christian and have all the answers when people come ask you and all that kind of thing. But when they don't have that transformation on the inside, all of a sudden now it's a burden. I mean, and not to get super spiritual with this, but you go back to even when Jesus was walking the earth, there was a group of religious people, they called them the Pharisees.
Right.
They were like that. Their hearts hadn't changed, but yet they were doing all the religious things. And if you looked on the outside, man, this is a leader. This is somebody who knows what's going on. But yet Jesus said their hearts were far from him.
Right. And
I think that's exactly what's happened. We see them now. And I don't mean it in a legalistic fashion that these four people we're talking about have just been, trying to make people's life miserable.
Right.
But I think that is what happened with them.
I think too, kind of as I mentioned earlier, growing up in the quote unquote, Christian bubble, I had a very distinct moment where I realized the amount of God's love for me. And also I had to kind of decide, look, if I didn't grow up in this just for a moment, would I still believe it?
Exactly.
And because this is the thing that's brought me peace. This is the thing that I read. And even though there's, like I said earlier, there's parts of the Bible that confuse me, that I don't understand, that I still have questions about, but it's what I believe. And I can say that even if my parents weren't Christians and if I didn't grow up going to church, I would still believe this. And I just wonder, did they ask themselves that same question and then just say no?
Actually, that's exactly what happened. That is exactly what happened in each one of their cases.
Yeah.
So that's where I think the turmoil is for them. They found relief from trying so hard. Jesus said, "Come to me, all you who are laboring, who are working so hard. I'll give you rest."
Right. So really they just found release from their own hard work.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, not from believing in Jesus.
I don't think they found true freedom like they think they found.
Right.
Anyway, that's our opinion. I'd love to know yours. I'm sure, that's what we think. But I'd love for you to chime in. You leave us a comment down in the comment section or get in touch with us through email or whatever. But we would love to hear your thoughts on this.
And I really hope too that, everybody listening, you start to maybe ask yourself some questions of, well, what is the basis of my faith, and where is my hope found? Where is my belief coming from? And if it's motivated by outward pressure from your family or maybe what you grew up in, I think you need to ask yourself some hard questions of, well, what do I really believe? Because it can't be anybody else's faith. It has to be yours. And you and I both had that experience. We came to that realization, and I hope that at some point, all of the four guys that we're talking about, I hope and pray that they come back to what they were maybe raised in and what they maybe know is the truth, but what they're not currently believing right now.
Absolutely.
Well, hey, everybody. We want to introduce you to Pat Davis at yourhealthplanman.com. And how would you like to get paid to go to the doctor? Well, Pat's clients do. And not only that, but Pat also routinely saves his clients 50% and more on the premiums. Here's the simple test. Let's just compare your health insurance plan to his. If you have a copay, you're less likely to go to the doctor, right? Well, here in Arkansas where we live, Pat's clients either get $120 or $160 to go to the doctor. And if the bill is less, they get a check. Same thing goes for prescription meds. Pat really believes that it has been far too long that we have been tricked into thinking that healthcare is expensive and complicated, when really it's neither one. But more importantly, Pat wants to give you back control over your healthcare.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I was very skeptical when I heard this.
Really?
I was like, come on. Getting a check, being paid to go to the doctor, what's the rub? I'm telling you right now, I have learned firsthand experience because I had got let go of my job, so I lost my health care, and I thought, well, what have I got to lose? I'm going to call Pat, see if he can help me out. And here's what happened. Because of all the COVID-19 stuff, the dentists were closed. So I had a toothache one morning. I woke up with it, and I thought, well, what am I going to do? The dentist's office, they can't see me.
Right.
So I went to the urgent care in my town, and I paid in cash, $126, I think it was. And I was able to take that bill for $126 and turn it in to Pat and the insurance company, I'm getting a check back for almost $400. And if you don't believe me,
what?
I am going to bring the receipt and I am going to bring the check. I should have the check within the next week or so. Hopefully by the next time we do a podcast, I will be able to show you, compare side by side. This stuff really works. Pat Davis at yourhealthplanman.com. What do you have to lose other than paying a ton for premiums? Because one of the things that always drove me crazy was the fact that I felt like I was paying so much for premiums, and then on top of that, having deductibles to meet.
Right.
This all changes with Pat Davis and yourhealthplanman.com. Check it out. I'm telling you, Pat is a great guy. We can personally attest to that. He loves Steve Bethany. He loves saving you money and getting you back in control of your health care. It's yourhealthplanman.com. Check it out.
Well, as I'm sure many of you heard earlier this week, Ravi Zacharias passed away, and that was hard news to take in. I mean, even though it was somewhat expected, he had just impacted so many people's lives all around the world, but also, in my life personally, and I know for you as well. Sure. I really loved, though, this post that Jackie Hill Perry shared on her Instagram. She's an author and just all around awesome, has a killer Instagram. But she posted this picture of her and her husband with Ravi. They were invited to his office to just have a conversation. And she said they were incredibly starstruck because it's Ravi Zacharias, and they were pretty intimidated. But he asked them all about their marriage and their kids and their ministry. And she said, I understood why he did as much as he did. It was because he was naturally inquisitive, but I also saw why he was able to communicate as he did, because he was incredibly humble. For anybody who's been impacted by Ravi, today we grieve, but not without hope. A part of me is so happy for him. He spent decades of his life defending the validity, the necessity, and the beauty of a person, and now, face to face, he finally stands before the one he defended. Rest well, Ravi.
Oh, that's sweet.
That just warmed my heart. I almost started crying when I started reading it, but it's just an amazing tribute of a life well lived, for sure.
No kidding about it. And, I first came across Ravi Zacharias. His television show was called Let My People Think. And I thought, what in the world is this? And I'm listening to this guy, he's of Indian descent.
Right.
And he's up there and he's just using words that are just well over my head.
You're like Googling as you're listening.
Exactly. Yeah. But he's defending the faith and everything. And then jump cut, because I thought, well, I can't, this guy's, got way more intelligence than I'll ever have. So I can't listen,
to this.
So jump cut a few years later, he's speaking to a group of, I say regular people, but you know what I mean? And
people on our level.
Yeah. And he's able to communicate some of these thoughts. And I'm thinking, this man is amazing. And I started doing some homework on him. And basically this guy was like Billy Graham. Yeah. Billy Graham had the evangelical stuff. Billy Graham went out and said, hey, look, everybody's a sinner. Everybody needs God. Ravi took those people once they said, okay, I want to follow Jesus. Let me show you how to follow Jesus, Yeah. And he was such a great teacher and such a great mentor. I mean, there's some other guys, and right now their names escape me, but he has mentored in this same apologetics that he has brought up. And you see him in conferences a lot of times with these other guys, and they're answering these hard questions about the faith. And so, I mean, it kind of dovetails really nicely with what we were talking about earlier. Ravi Zacharias defended the faith because when he was, I think, 17 years old, felt like he was on his deathbed, not because he was sick or anything, but because he was at the end of his rope. He was about ready to just end it all. And a Bible verse kind of stuck out in his mind about Jesus saying, because I live, you shall live too. Yeah. Radically changed his life and set him on a course where he went literally all over the world telling people not only about the gospel, but debating and also reasoning, almost like, you read in the Bible where Paul went to Mars Hill, which was in Greece.
And it was, threw down.
And it was all the, and all the smart people were there.
Right.
And they're all debating, and they're all got these all different kinds of issues. Yeah. And Paul stands up and gives his belief in Christianity. And that's what Ravi did literally time and time again his entire adult life.
And I love what you brought up earlier too, that he, kind of adjusted without changing his message, adjusted it depending on who he was talking to. And I feel like that's a great example for all of us, that we can be very well versed in the Bible, but we also need to remember, we need to be able to explain it to a 5-year-old as well as a 95-year-old and
Amen.
just be able to share the same gospel, but kind of know who you're talking to. I love that.
That article you were talking about, or that post, is going to be in the show notes. You can check it out for yourself. But Ravi Zacharias passed away earlier this week at the age of 74. He lived a life well lived, no doubt.
Sure.
Okay, before we continue, we want to stop right here and tell you about our Patreon. We're really excited about this.
Yeah, it's an awesome way to not only support the show and make sure that it reaches as many people as possible, but also you kind of get to be a part of the creative team. It's made up of myself and Steve and you. You're a huge part of that.
Absolutely. We look forward to your feedbacks, your comments, your suggestions. We have taken so many of those that have already joined us on Patreon and incorporated them into what you're already seeing now.
But here's the thing, okay? Not only do you get to be a part of the creative team, but there's a ton of perks of being a patron. You get episodes like this one way early. You get bonus episodes, lots of cool merch. Like this.
Yep, this desk guard is hand-painted and handmade by my wife. You'll get one of these, and you'll also have a chance to have virtual coffee shops with us one time a month where we just get to hang out and just be friends and kind of grow the community and that whole thing, as well as some classic Steve and Bethany videos. We used to work together
back in the day
at a radio station, and I came across some of these treasures, and they're so funny. I mean, I say that. I mean, but they really are.
We think they're pretty funny, and we think that you would enjoy them as well. So to be a patron, all it takes is as little as $5 a month, and we hope you join the team.
Yeah, it's real easy. Just go to patreon.com/Steve and Bethany. That website address again is patreon.com/Steve and Bethany.
Very nice.
All right, every episode before we get finished with the Hopecast, we want to leave you with kind of a good feeling. We want to leave you with some hope. So you came across a story that fits that bill, right?
I did, yeah. I came across this tweet that has gone viral. It's all about this YouTube channel. It's called Dad, How Do I? It started by this guy that lives in Chicago. His name is Rob. And basically the channel is dedicated to teaching kids how to do the things that their dad might teach them to do. So how to tie a tie, how to shave, unclog a drain, fix a leaky sink, all of that stuff. But it comes from a really cool place. Rob himself, he grew up without a dad, and his mom was an alcoholic. So he describes his childhood as being pretty fractured. And so he was inspired to start this YouTube channel and kind of teach kids that might be growing up without dads the things that his dad wasn't able to teach him.
That's great.
I really loved what he had to say. He said, I never wanted to be wealthy. I never wanted to be successful with the whole YouTube thing. My goal in life was to raise good adults, not good children, but good adults, because I had a fractured childhood. And then after his YouTube channel went viral, he's picked up like an extra 1 million subscribers in the past couple days.
Wow. Really?
He said, I had a lot of people reaching.
Can we get some help with that?
Come on over, bud. He said, I had so many people reaching out with their stories on grief and loss, asking for my advice or how I navigated through my own grief in hopes that they could start their own healing journey. It was really eye-opening yet heartbreaking to see that so many individuals have gone through so much hurt, but it's lovely to see them continue navigating through life in such a beautiful way. I think this is so cool. And
I do too.
An amazing idea.
It is really good. But I do have one question. I mean, this is basically designed for young men. It seems like,
pretty
kids,
much.
Kids that don't have it well.
Yeah.
Would it be okay for say, a 45-year-old individual sitting across the table from me? Because
Why?
Because you know this about me, that I am like the least handiest man.
That is true. You do
in the
need
whole
this.
world.
That's really okay. Let's catch everybody up. So I've known you long enough to know this about you, but Steve is not handy around the house.
Not at
Your
all.
wife is though. Like she knows how to use saws and all kinds of power tools and
If you walk into our garage, there's multiple saws and pieces of lumber just everywhere at various states, and they're all hers. I don't even know how to turn them on. You know what I mean?
Do I plug it in?
Yeah, right.
What am I doing here?
Right. So that's all that. And it took me a long time before I was able to say, okay, babe, won't you handle this?
To be okay with it?
To be okay with it. Yeah, because I'm the man.
But
I'm supposed to be able to fix stuff.
Here's the thing. This is God's grace in your life because you're kind of a little incompetent around the house. You say that.
Yeah, I don't know how to use the word incompetent, but
That's the word I use. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying. But he gave you a woman that knows how to do that stuff.
Yeah.
So think about it. If she was like me and didn't know anything about how to fix stuff around the house, and then she married you, who also doesn't know how to do anything, the house would be falling down.
We'd be sunk.
This is grace in your life.
Well, I'm so glad we did the podcast today. That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, it's my TED Talk for the day. It's my little encouragement for you.
Well, what was the name of the website again, or the YouTube page?
The YouTube channel is called Dad, How Do I?
Okay, we'll post a link down at the show notes so you can check that out for yourself. That's a cool website.
For sure.
So I guess we need to put a bow on this one. This has been a fun episode.
I think so. Be sure to follow us on social media. It's Steve and Bethany everywhere you go. That's Instagram, right. Twitter, Facebook, all that. Be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you feel like becoming a patron and getting some kind of perks, join us on Patreon.
Yeah, patreon.com/Steve and Bethany. Also sign up for our newsletter. We send that out one time a week. It's steveandbethany.com. You can do that. So we're all over. We hope you'll continue on this ride with us. And if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button on wherever you listen to this podcast and tell your friends.
Leave us a review.
Yes, because look, that's not just egocentric, although it is a little
bit.
But it's mainly because we want the show to be seen and heard by more people. So,
but it also is a little egocentric because we are ex-radio people.
That's exactly right.
That's part of the job.
We're transparent about doing it. Other ex-radio people, they're not transparent about it. They just
we're just honest.
That's right. So, thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Good night, Olive Branch.